This video is going to be a film study look at some of the things that Aiden Hutchinson has been able to accomplish with the Detroit Lions in 3 seasons, actually 2.5. 2024 was cut short by injury, despite not having a ton of help, dedicated help on the other side. I have to provide some commentary here before we get to some film of Aiden Hutchinson, and I will let you know there will be a plot twist about halfway through the video. Look, the reality is I'm not one of those people who complained in last year's draft or even 2 years ago about what Brad Holmes didn't get, an edge rusher, a pass rusher. But I remember reading and seeing some of those complaints. And now here we are in 2025 with the roster being so thin at defensive end, outside linebacker, whatever position you want to call it, edge rusher encompasses both. Those people don't look wrong now, at least to this day. I'm of the opinion that in this offseason, Brad Holmes should trade for one, acquire one, draft one. So a total of two, either trade for one, draft one, sign one, draft one, or possibly draft two. He has to, in my opinion. I did a mock draft that was somewhat unconventional earlier today. You're welcome to check that out if you wish. It's basically allowing you to be the GM and make picks along the way among a certain group of players that are available. Check it out if you get a chance. But the impetus for this video that I've had in my pocket for a while is Detroit has a hole in what they're able to do defensively in the last 2 years. 2024, the Lions finished with 37 team sacks. And Hutchinson had 7.5 of those in only 5 games. Obviously, he was on a historic pace that was interrupted by injury. For the year, the Lions finished 23rd in the league with 37 sacks. Denver led the NFL with 63. The season before, 2023, Aaron Glenn's group had 41 sacks, 23rd once again. And in that season, Hutchinson had over a quarter of them. He had 11.5 of the 41 sacks. I'm only using regular season stats. All told, the last 2 years. Of course, Aaron Glenn's gone. I don't think that he was the problem and his structure was the problem. But over the last 2 seasons, when the Lions have won a lot of football games and played some excellent defense at times, particularly last year, not late 2023, Detroit produced 78 sacks. Aiden Hutchinson has 19 of them, almost exactly 1/4, a little bit less than 25%. I think they've got to get him some help. I think that's clear, and I'm quite sure that everyone recognizes that. You thought you had some with Zadarius Smith. Marcus Davenport was retained and not Zadarius Smith. Aleem McNeil is out for injury for a while, trying to recover. I want to present a scenario to you. Pick 28 comes up in next month's NFL draft. Ravens have just selected at 27, and all the following guys are off the board. Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, Mike Green, maybe even James Pierce. They've all been taken. You've got a choice of players. One of my personal favorites, Nick Scourton, Donovan Enzuraku, Landon Jackson, Jack Sawyer. Almost think that Brad Holmes needs to double up in this draft. I don't mean first and second round edge defender, but first and fourth, or second and fourth, something like that. Try to get some depth at that position where the reality is you're just extremely thin. Aiden Hutchinson coming off of injury. Aleem McNeil will be back at some point as a defensive tackle, obviously not an edge defender. Derek Barnes is really better suited as an inside linebacker, but he's a hybrid Sam who can walk up to the line of scrimmage and play that Sam position into the boundary, drop out in coverage. Davenport, injury prone, clearly can't be relied upon. I think it's a very thin position, and in fact, of the 3 teams that I try to create content on at this point, the Ravens, the Lions, the Seahawks, in that order, it's the most thin position out of any among those 3 teams. The only comparison that I can think of in my brain is the Seahawks offensive line, meaning it's one that's so thin and offers real question marks leading into the season, and that's with an all-pro player from the Lions' perspective. That's with an all-pro player like Aiden Hutchinson there at defensive end. You know what you're going to get with him. Like I said, there'll be a plot twist later on in the video where I'll present a scenario to you as the viewer or the listener. Forgive me for the long lead-in, but I wanted to get my thoughts out on why I think Brad Holmes should focus on the edge position to the exclusion of so many others, or in an overwhelming focus, I should say, compared to other positions, somewhat similar to the Seahawks with their offensive line needs. Let's take a look at a little bit of the film to kind of set the stage for what I said will be a plot twist or a fork in the road at some point in this video. Hutchinson has a nasty spin move that we all know quite well. I think what it does is it allows his other complementary moves to be more effective. When you have that A-level move, and in this case it's a spin move, oftentimes to the inside, but sometimes to the outside, he just operates at a different plane. You oftentimes see the outside arm shoot up really in an extended manner prior to the spin. He's trying to get his body torqued up to be able, or ready to be able to be torqued to the inside. It's smooth. Who knows if his dance history is part of the reason why it works for him. But he gains ground while doing so, and it's the outside. In this case, it's the outside leg that he's pushing off of first, and then the inside leg, the left leg that's in the ground right now. Once he turns, that one gains ground. Look at the ground that he gains there, gets his cleats into the turf. That spin move, I would say, is an establishing shot, a jab, if you will, or maybe at sometimes a jab and the right cross at the same time. Something in 2024 that I thought you could notice is a little bit smoother on stunts. He's got the thing about Aiden Hutchinson and other high-level pass rushers is if a move doesn't work, they've still got a secondary or complementary piece that can help them to disrupt the pocket, disrupt the quarterback's flow. Underrated ability to drive offensive linemen towards the quarterback. I remember in the draft process when there was so much discussion, Trayvon Walker versus Aidan Hutchinson, the arm length. For whatever it's worth, he collapses the pocket well in certain situations. He's very smart when doing so. Normally, get to one. This is 2023 against the Packers. It's a TE stunt with him and Lee McNeil. I will show you the end zone angle in a moment. You can see it's kind of an abrupt change of direction for Hutchinson underneath, and McNeil takes up the quarterback contain position here to the outside such that Hutchinson can work underneath, and as he works underneath, he kind of walks the right guard back into Jordan Love's face. Let it flow through one more time so you guys can see it. Kind of have to break up the film a little bit more to evade or avoid content ID detection sometimes. That's just the nature of it right now for me and for a lot of content creators. But when Hutchinson, he's a little less smoother. I'd say it was a little clunky. And look, there were some times where that stunt didn't work or an inside move didn't work. The one that comes to mind, and I actually just talked about a couple of days ago, was the road loss to the Bears in 2023, late in the season. I think week 14, somewhere in that area. It's a third down. If you recall, Hutchinson takes his move to the inside. It's actually not a stunt. It's not a pre-planned or called stunt. And Fields breaks contain to the outside, gets a touchdown. Hutchinson actually, he took the blame for it. And like I said, it wasn't a pre-planned one. This one is. It's like I said, I think it's a little more clunky from 2023 than we had in 2024. It still works, and that's why I'm using it to make my point, is that it still works because he's able to walk the right guard back into the quarterback's face, even when perhaps he doesn't become the beneficiary of what oftentimes works out like a pick. If the guard goes with McNeil being the yellow line, then Hutchinson has a free path. Well, this is a very good guard in this case, and so he passes McNeil off to the outside, and then he's there for Hutchinson on the inside stunt. You can see what I mean, the kind of abrupt turn. Some guys are, a little bit more smooth with that. Hutchinson's trying to sell it, but even though it doesn't look clean initially, it works. Why? Because Hutchinson has the ability to walk that offensive lineman back into the quarterback's face. He's a finisher, and I get it that there's certainly plays we remember that he was close to getting the quarterback and wasn't able to bring him down. But I think that's a byproduct of his consistency, which is a huge asset. Meaning, Hutchinson is going to get pressure. He's going to cause problems for offensive linemen consistently and be near to the quarterback. I think he needs help. I think he needs someone else who can finish, and that, to me, from a simplistic standpoint, could push this Lions defense to even better heights than 2024 when, before all the injuries occurred. Well, what week was that? I guess actually, but before so many injuries destroyed the credibility of the defense, they were playing quite well under Aaron Glenn. So we all remember the ending and late in the season, certain games where they were outmatched. I think 3 games in a row, the second half was a real problem. Hutchinson needs a guy opposite him. And look, and I'm a huge Brad Holmes fan, but the reality is he didn't go acquire one until in 2024, until after Hutchinson got hurt. I think you benefit from a 10-plus sack type of guy on the other side, somebody who can balance things out, make plays. The old saying here applies for me: where you have one, you have none. Where you have two, you have one. Meaning, in the event of injury to a football player like Aiden Hutchinson, you have another guy who can make plays. Or in the event of the injury to the other guy, the secondary pass rusher on the other side. This is an inside spin move again after a chip by the tight end. And you'll see the left arm go up in the air right here, kind of leading to the spin I'm talking about right now. Mirrored image of what we saw earlier. Just doesn't gain as much ground with the right foot now because the quarterback is trying to escape up the middle. It's young. Like I said, this is 2023 film. He didn't gain ground with this spin. I didn't need to, really, because he understood where Young was trying to get to. Young was trying to step up in the pocket and get away from him. One more play from Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best ones. This is, I think, really almost a legendary play. Late in the first win against the Bears, 2023, fourth quarter, comeback. It had so many elements that makes it memorable. Right? The come from behind win in a game they didn't play well in. Hutchinson, in fact, didn't do much against this right tackle who deserved credit that day. Just a basic rip underneath. Tries to get the tackle's hand out and then rip underneath. And in this case, Fields, doesn't have much awareness of the chance that he's got Hutchinson right in his face, and you can see ball's already out on the swat. Beautiful moment, for well, first of all, selfishly, as soon as the Lions win, you know that there's going to be a lot of engagement on my reaction videos, and there's going to be a lot of engagement on any film study videos that I put out. So for multiple reasons, I'm rooting for the Lions and the Ravens every week. But an amazing moment all the way around. Number one, because he's a hometown kid who went to Michigan. Come from behind over the Bears at home. Also, he hadn't done much to that point, and you had the come from behind nature. I think this made it 33-26, the final score, something like that. Just a real legendary moment in his career, and one that I think kind of gives you an idea of how dangerous he is. You can shut him down or limit him for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden Aiden Hutchinson can make the play that changes the tone and tenor of the game. One more for Hutchinson before the fork in the road here in terms of what we're talking about. Defensive end you can't block him with a tight end. And the Lions have a really cool stunt here against this motion across. The motion is kind of in blue right here. That's the motion guy, or that's the path that he's going on. And Cam Sutton is on the blitz. So he's going to take up the tight end, the second tight end who's working across. So really what they want is they want these two tight ends to both work on the edge defender. And if you can get Hutchinson in any kind of one-on-one with a tight end, you're going to win. And you can see it's a real quick swim to the inside, over the top. I'm actually really impressed by his inside wins oftentimes in such that, whether it's against a tight end, whether it's against a tackle or a pulling guard, his inside wins are swift and abrupt. As a brilliant player, I think it's high time that they get him a running mate, someone that's his equal in talent. And here's the plot twist. This is what I love about the draft process, because of what happens on draft night. Picks, the value of a pick, I should say, it isn't static. It changes. It's dynamic. It'll change on draft night given what players are available and who a team has selected earlier in the draft. And hopefully I can explain this in a way that makes sense. So one of the thoughts that I've had is for the Lions, they pick at 28. There might be a player on the board. There might be a player on the board that they really want, but there might be a player on the board that another team wants. Perfect fit for them, that the Lions don't need. And so the scenario I want to present is, and I don't think Brad Holmes is a trade back out of round one guy, unless it fills a need and or returns a player that fills a position. And in this case, I think they've got a huge need at the opposite side, defensive end. And there's a guy who checks off all the boxes, has a lower contract for the next 2 years, 2025 and 2026. and also would bring a level of irony that really only a fictional writer could match. And what I'm talking about, in case you don't know, is Trayvon Walker. So do I think that the Jags really want to get rid of him? No, but let me explain what the Jags have in this draft. They have 2 third-round picks. They have 2 fourth-round picks. Overall, I believe they have 6 of the top 126 picks in this draft. If they take OLB at 5 or 6, whatever they're at, I think it's 5. Then this becomes something that's possible because they've got Josh Allen, who signed for a long time. The cheap salary here for Trayvon Walker is the thing that makes him both attractive for other teams to try to trade for, and especially the Lions, but also only makes sense for the Jags to hold on to because of the lower salary to combine with the infusion of talent that they're going to get. What I'm envisioning here, or what I'm wondering about, is Walker plus a 5th for pick 28, first-round pick for the Lions, maybe a 2nd or a 3rd next year, 2026, and a 4th. I'm going to present the scenario. I recognize that some people either A, won't be a fan of it, or B, will think that it's largely impossible for the Lions to swing something like this. What I'm saying is, don't close your mind to anything. I really like Trayvon Walker's game, and I will show a little bit of film here. I think he's got an insane bull rush and extremely violent. That's the thing that would be the drawing card for the Lions to me, or the thing that would really, I think, make this fit, because he is a excellent football player who plays blocks. He doesn't just chase sacks. He's borderline, like I said, penalty worthy in some of these bull rushes. You can see the strike here against the Colts right tackle, into the head, the face mask area, nearly forces a fumble against Anthony Richardson. I know that the level of irony here is super high, and a lot of Lions fans have probably still leftover frustration with the way that the Walker and Hutchinson drafting or pairing worked out. The discussion immediately that night, I think you got to get over it if you're still stuck on that. If you can acquire someone at a low salary point who's there for 2 years, by the way, with this level of talent, I think it should be explored. Other guys in the league fit all those same boxes, I'm not sure, but he plays through contact really well. He wins with physicality and collapses the pocket on pass plays, and also against run concepts. So here's one where they're trying to execute a somewhat similar stunt to what I talked about with Hutchinson and McNeil. Walker going to the inside. I think the D tackle is supposed to hold here and then loop to the outside. That part never actually occurs. Ritter can't get the ball out, and Walker folds inside for what would be called a cheap or an easy sack for someone of his talent. The only problem here is, 2 problems, is that he is cheap for the Jags from a salary cap standpoint, so they would want to hold on to him, number one. And number 2, he generally does rush from the left, so he almost often lines up on the left-hand side of the defense, similar to Hutchinson, who plays left side D-end. So that is a sticking point. Or how would you move those guys around? Would they be dedicated right and left? Would Hutchinson move over to the right? The one thing I will say that draws me to the film is, from this wide alignment, he's scary because of the ability to collapse things down with his size and speed and power. You can see there's no long arm here. This is just, I'm going to run through your face, and the right tackle knew what was up. That's why he was looking at the wide alignment, gets down into the pocket, absolutely destroys the integrity of the pocket, finishes off Kenny Pickett. 2 teams ago at this point for Kenny Pickett, was with the Eagles last year, and now I think is with the Browns. He's so violent, in fact, that I think it's a perfect fit. The name, Trayvon Walker, the history between Walker and Hutchinson, or the way they were evaluated, you may say, Coach, that's not a perfect fit for me. I'm talking about the player on the field. And that's why I think if Brad Holmes gets to pick 28 and either the Jags call him or he calls the Jags, I think it's worth exploring. And I think this is the type of signing that immediately, or the type of acquisition, that immediately upgrades this defense. And so I'm going to do it this way. You may not like what I've presented here, and that's fine. I actually look forward to Lions videos because people are so honest about what I'm trying to present. Here's the thing I will say. What if you had Trayvon Walker in 2024? And, Aiden Hutchinson obviously is able to play the whole season. So you're talking about two what ifs. What I mean is all other injuries still occurring. If you have a Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson in 2024, it's a totally different type of defense, in my opinion. Probably don't, acquire Zadarius Smith, I know. Point is, two high-level talents, two guys that can get things done against the pass, against the run. They fit well together, in my opinion, and they're guys that are willing to play unselfishly. They don't only play the pass. They don't only go after sacks. They're two guys that play blocks. They respond to what they see in front of them. Last play that I'll show here. Look, like I said before, the Jags have 6 of the top 126 picks. They've got their quarterback in place. They've got an early first-round pick. Like I said, I believe it's pick 5. And then they're 36 or 35. 2/3, 2/4. Trayvon Walker, they should want him. They do want him, let's be honest. But were they to have a player they really, really liked available at 28, and the Lions recognize the reality, which is they need someone that can play at a high level opposite Aiden Hutchinson right now and for 2026. I think Trayvon Walker's that guy. Or excuse me, let me rephrase that. I think Trayvon Walker is a real serious. Let me rephrase that. I think Trayvon Walker is a real serious option, a guy that has inside rush versatility, very violent with his hands, and wins on second engagements on interior rushes. So, whatever the Lions do in this draft, if they take a guy at 28, a pass rusher, is he going to be as refined as Trayvon Walker? I guess depending on who it is. If you're talking about a Mike Green, that's a guy with with already pre-installed high-level moves from a pass rush standpoint. Doesn't have the physicality of a Trayvon Walker, certainly, in my opinion, and you may disagree there. I will have a second part of this if Lions fans are interested, where basically I'm talking about what Trayvon Walker does against the run, how disruptive he actually is against the run, and what I think he could bring to this Lions team if something like this were to work out. Again, this is one of the things I really enjoy about the draft is the scenarios, the possibilities, and I think that's what most football fans enjoy. If you don't like the projection nature of this, feel free to let me know in the comment section, like I said. But it's one of the things that makes the draft so much fun for me is thinking about, okay, what is the needs that a team has, and could that match up with the needs of some other NFL franchise at a particular moment? And this is right after the Ravens pick at 27, and the Lions are getting ready to go at 28, and they've got someone there who maybe they want to pick, but other players on the board are more attractive to other teams, other front offices. In this case, it would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're welcome to let me know what you think of how I spun this content from one direction to another. If it worked out this way, how happy would you be? I would be ecstatic for the Detroit Lions. I'd be ecstatic for you in that now you've got a guy opposite Hutchinson who plays a ton of snaps and is extremely reliable. It's a big engine for Trayvon Walker. I think he plays 85 to 88 to 90% of the snaps generally. He almost reminds me of Myles Garrett from this standpoint, in that it's a big engine, a large frame, and he can't go 100% of the snaps. Aiden Hutchinson can. You're normally talking about 95 to 97% of the snaps for Hutchinson, and no drop-off in his effort, no drop-off in his get-off from the line of scrimmage. Walker, slightly different, so maybe the Lions are still, in this scenario, maybe the Lions are still looking at drafting a guy later on who can provide some of that supplementary pass rush along with a Marcus Davenport and anyone else that's already on the roster. I appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. Number one. Number two, I apologize for some of the graphical glitches that appeared to show on screen. I'm not sure why that occurred. I attempted to fix it halfway through the video. But if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study and this scenario / projection of Trayvon Walker possibly being available on draft night at a particular time, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.